Welcome to another episode of Crawfordsville Connection, the City of Crawfordsville's weekly podcast that comes out every Monday morning. I'm your host, Sarah Summer, and I'm joined in the studio every week with Mayor Todd Barton to keep our community up to date on current events, city workings, and to hear from community members on a variety of topics. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Welcome back to another episode of Crawfordsville Connection. I'm your host, Sarah Summer, and today I'm joined in the studio by Mayor Todd Barton.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good. And we've got Brandy Allen here with us. Hello.
Hello.
It's got to be a general update.
It's that time.
Yes.
A general update.
We're going to go over all things A to Z happening in Crawfordsville, give all the updates on projects, city workings, all things happening.
The list is a little shorter this month. That's
yes.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not because things aren't happening. It's just.
No, well, there's some things that there's no change. So we kind of left it off, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we don't have any announcements today. Everything we might announce on, we're going to cover right here in this episode.
We are.
Well, we'll just go ahead and get started on everyone's favorite topic, right?
Oh, my favorite. By
Your
far.
favorite topic?
Yeah.
Property tax reform.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about this. We did a special episode, episode 241, if you're curious, talking about this. And I've told everybody all along, our financial advisors, the accountants, are still working through the numbers so we can have some more precise indication of what this is going to mean to us. We have those back. I know I teased that a little bit last week. And so I'll throw a little bit out there, a high-level overview. It's not encouraging. I'll just say that, right? So it looks like, according to our accountants, that by year 3, so keep in mind that Senate Enrolled Act is phased in over 3 years. But by year 3, per year, we will have about an $8 million a year loss to income tax, local income tax. Now, a good part of that can be made up. So like the public safety income tax goes away, but there's another one that comes in its place. So that we can probably figure out and deal with. It is a little misleading because you'll hear a lot of people around the state saying, local communities are going to implement all these new income taxes. Well, yes and no. They're new, but they're replacing ones that are going away. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a wash there. But that's about $8 million a year. The catch there is that getting those new replacement income taxes in place is rather complex and complicated. So there are a lot of things that can go wrong in that process. Yeah. And if that doesn't happen, that revenue does get replaced. And I'm just going to tell you, some of those services are going to get cut. Bottom line, right? On the property tax side, it's about, by year 3, about a $2.3 million a year loss to the city. So that is a much more difficult piece to figure out and to make up. Really, the only way we can make that up that I can see is by growing our assessed value and our tax base. But that's about $2.3 million a year. So translated, as we've been talking about different things, we're going to have to shift some stuff around. We're going to have to think through this. And there probably will be some cuts. I mean, that's just reality, right? Yeah. So if we're going to have less to work with, there's going to be less to work with at the end of the day. So, but we've got a little time to figure this out. And the legislature has said repeatedly that they're going to come back and address this next session, that they realize that some of these things didn't quite make sense, to which I will say, you knew that when you voted on it. You told us you knew it didn't make sense, but you voted on it anyway. Mm-hmm. So we'll see where it ends up, but those are the numbers as we see them right now. And those come from our accountants, from the financial advisors, whom we trust. So much more accurate than the talking points, the canned talking points that our legislators were floating around when they voted on this, which were incredibly inaccurate. I'll just say that. So, and I know I said this last episode, I will double down and say it again. I think it's important when we talk about this to not just use general terms and say the legislature approved this. I'm going to use names, and both of those who represent Crawfordsville in the General Assembly, Senator Brian Buchanan and Representative Bo Baird, both voted in favor of this.
Yeah.
Just want to be perfectly clear and give credit where credit is due. They both voted in favor of this and thought it was a great idea. Mm-hmm. So here we are.
Yes.
So those are the numbers. Not time for panic. We got some time to figure it out. We're going to shift some things around. Rest assured, we're not going to let this detour or derail what we're doing here in this community. We're growing. Good things are happening. But we are going to have to kind of navigate this moving forward.
Okay. And also in episode 241, we also talked about the wheel tax.
We did. And so we've talked about that. I would just encourage people to go back and listen to that episode. I know we've had quite a few listens to that. That just explains in detail what's involved there, what we're considering, how it would work, and then what happens if we don't implement it. So definitely go check that out. But that's tied to all of this. Again, as I said in that episode, when you have less property tax coming in, you're going to have to shift some of your wheel tax over, or some of your local road and street over to, fund operations of the street department. That means you're going to have to shift your paving funding. So all those things are affected by this.
Okay. And 2520 US 231 South annexation.
Yeah. So this will be on the council agenda here in July. And it's another annexation of about 25 acres on 231 South. The best way to describe that, if you've been around a long time, you know where the TikTok was, the coffee cup, not the social media.
Not the social media.
Yeah. And then there's been several things, but if you go south on 231, there was a trailer park back in the woods there and everything. It's that area right there. That has new ownership, and they've requested the city annex them. They're going to develop that site, obviously. And so I'm not sure what it'll end up being. Probably maybe some business in the front and some residential in the back. But that annexation goes before the city council here in July. So if you hear about that and read about that, that's what's going on. There's not a definite plan there, but they want to be able to have sewer and water and city amenities.
Yeah. And we posted last week, Mayor, you had been invited to testify for the U.S. House Subcommittee.
I did.
Yes.
Yeah, we posted that. Had a lot of interest in that,
Yes,
I guess.
it did.
So yeah, so I had the chance to go to DC, got invited to testify. So the House has a committee on education and workforce, and then there's a subcommittee of that on early education, elementary, secondary, those pieces. And they were having a hearing specifically looking at the issue of the lack of childcare in communities and, understanding the economic impact of that. And so obviously we've done a lot of work in that space. That's how we got chosen to talk about that. And the point was just to kind of speak from a local community's perspective. They don't hear that much in DC, trust me. From the local community perspective, what works and what doesn't, and how we pull these things together. So pretty cool experience. Not something that I want to do real often, though. DC is a different environment for sure.
Yes. And Motocross of Nations 2025, we are planning every single day.
Yeah, every day. Our group is meeting more frequently now. This last meeting we had was, I think 30 minutes or less with all the pieces reporting in. So I think it's a well-oiled machine at this point, and we're really focused in. We're going to be prepared for this event, and we're going to pull it off in grand fashion.
Yes.
Yep. Great team of people there doing great work. So we're going to be well prepared. And
our meeting live stream, it is officially after July 1st. So we are officially live with this. Yeah. We know we've got a few bugs working out, some of the technology pieces, but it's only going to get easier. Yeah. At the time of recording, we've done our first meeting. So yes. It was relatively painless for us in attendance. I don't know about those watching. Right. But we've got some technical issues. And so if there's some sound issues and things like that, we'll get it honed in over time here. Yeah. And you can find those right on our website. If you go to our main homepage, and then under the Live Here tab, there's a government section and then public meetings. And you can find all of the meetings that might be actively being live streamed, but then also past meetings. Those recordings are left and housed and archived on the website where people can find those as well. Yep. Okay. Just bear in mind, we're in a really old building. The acoustics aren't good. Yes. We're adapting modern technology to a very, very old building. So it's a challenge. We're doing our best. We are. And 180 makeover grant at the Masonic Cornerstone.
Yeah, just an update on that. That's one of our last Ready One projects. We are moving along. I think that project should wrap up here in July, hopefully. It's time for all those projects to wrap up. But they're, again, as a reminder, just working on things inside electrical work, fire alarm, things like that. So this is really important work that will help them continue to expand what they're able to offer there at that building. But not a lot of noticeable things happening from the outside with this grant. There are other things happening funded by other grants.
Yes.
But this is all interior work that really isn't impacting any members of the public. But it's interesting to know that soon all the electric will be up to code, some lighting issues corrected, some, it'll be safer with the fire alarm and things like that. So that should maybe be wrapped up hopefully by our next update.
Perfect. And one Haiti in Color grant with our mural.
Yes, this one will be a little more obvious to our community members. And we can say now that on July 14th, Jenna Morello and an assistant will be in town, and they will begin a mural at 120 South Green Street. So that's exciting. We've been working on this for a long time, and we're finally able to see that happen here pretty soon. So that also should be wrapped up by the time that we update again. So if anyone gets a chance, you can come out and watch that happen. This one will be more visible to the public. So you will be able to see this from Green Street and Pike Street. So it'll be exciting for the community to get to watch the progress on that project. And it'll wrap up probably in less than 2 weeks. So.
The fascinating process. She spray paints all this freehand. So
yeah,
come watch it. It's very interesting.
Okay. And Shorts Nature Park. Yeah,
we're still working through that. We've kind of hit pause on that a little bit just to get some of these other projects out of the way and try to understand the financial side of things. We are still moving through that very early design phases. Have had some communication with Mr. Shorts here recently, so we're kind of zeroing in on it and see it move forward. Obviously not going to happen in 25, but our goal is to get this to move forward in 26. And again, that's 47 acres on the south side along State Road 32 West. Be a nature park very similar to Brickyard, a little bit different, but similar, which will be a tremendous asset for our community. So, and on that note, there's an article came out this month in Indianapolis Monthly Magazine about Will Shorts. So if you get that magazine or you have a chance to buy it, check it out. It's a pretty cool article about him, and he talks about Crawfordsville in there.
Very cool. And Sugar Creek Emergency Services, the boat ramp for those emergency services.
Yeah, so we're looking at putting a boat ramp along 231 near where the dam used to be, just for emergency services. Sometimes they need to access the creek for emergencies. And that's been through design. It's been approved by DNR. We think we're ready to take it to bid. We have some questions about the engineering estimates, so we have to kind of figure that out before we actually take it to bid. But hopefully we'll see that move forward this summer. I hope.
Yes.
A lot of questions came up when the engineer's estimates came in, so they were kind of out of sync with what we expected. So we're still working through that.
Okay. And our wayfinding project.
Yeah, so it's official. The wayfinding project officially lost the race with the Ben-Hur building, but we are still slowly moving forward.
Ben-Hur had a head start by several decades, though, to be honest.
It's hard to see any progress right now because a lot of what's happening very slowly. But what is happening is foundations that are being set, and then they'll go back and put up the signs. So the signs will appear to have gone up very quickly, but they're going on foundations that have been installed over time. So it's still moving forward. It hasn't been dropped, but it's very slow.
And our 231 project, that is an NDOT project just north of downtown.
Yeah, I haven't received any updates on that recently. It's still obviously very much under construction and moving forward. There has been a little bit of shifting around. They've sort of tweaked that traffic pattern, especially up on the north side, adding some turn lanes and things like that and trying to work through some bugs. Still working on the same side of the road. So as we've discussed before, they'll complete those 2 lanes, and then they'll switch the traffic pattern, work on the other lanes, and then I think they'll divide it back up and do some final work. So we're still hoping that they're holding to their promise of finishing that by the race this fall, but we'll see.
Yes. And the high school lift station is under construction.
It is. And that people may have noticed the work on that slowed a little. There was a conflict with a water main that wasn't marked. There was some damage that occurred. And so things had to be rearranged a little bit. And there was some repair work that needed to happen. The work has begun on that again. So they're still moving forward, but there's been some not only delays because of that, but also some supply delays and things like that. So what originally had hoped to be completing right about now, I think, will now be wrapped up this fall.
Okay. And our Skank Road project, we've been saying for a while that it's going to be July 2025, and it's July.
Yeah, it goes to bid this week, as once this airs. It will be bid this week, and then we'll find out what those bids look like and be able to plan on moving forward on that project.
Awesome. Okay. And it is summertime, which means that we are going to be starting some paving projects.
We are. In the past couple years, everyone may remember that paving has happened a little later, inconveniently right as soon as school starts. So we're hoping to wrap all of our paving up in July this year so that we don't have as much conflict with the school bus routes and things like that this year. But actually, we have 2 different grants that we're paving at the same time. It doesn't typically fall like this, but one contractor was a little behind and one is a little ahead. So we'll have 2 different contractors in town paving in different areas, but we'll do it all around the same time. So we will be paving Main Street from Berry to Barr, Barr Street from Wabash to Market, Grace Avenue from 136 to the dead end, Rosewood from Grace Avenue to Inglewood Drive, Woodside from Grace Avenue to Rosewood Drive, and Whitlock Avenue from Fairgrounds to Memorial, and we will avoid fair time so that there's not a conflict there. And then Mill Street from Franklin to Elmore, South Boulevard from the golf course to Washington Street, Elm Street from South Boulevard to 150 South, and Southgate Drive from Mill Street to South Boulevard. So that's a big list of paving that'll be happening all over the community, but we're hoping to wrap that up in July. You'll probably see them out right now. They're already going and kind of working on the ADA ramps and doing utility markings and things like that. But you'll see a lot of pavement action happening in July.
Awesome.
Some of those are busy streets, so
Yes.
be patient.
Yes.
South Boulevard, for example,
Yes.
Elm Street. Yeah.
We'll make sure we get that shared out on social media as well so people can be aware. And
again, the contractor doing those, she said 2 different grants. They're both community crossings, which we've talked about at length
Right.
here recently, tied to the wheel tax and the excise surtax. So
right.
if you're wondering where that goes, that's half of the money to pave those streets.
Yes.
Yep.
And if you live on one of these streets, you will get a notice on your door when it's time to move cars off the streets and things like that. So I would just say stay tuned, but you'll see a lot of paving happening this summer.
Okay. And our Market Street Railroad crossing through the Federal Railroad Association grant.
Yep, we've still been meeting with them, with Federal Railroad Association and Federal Railroad Administration. Moving forward on that project, we have all of our contract completed and we're working through that initial planning document because this is a project with the federal government. It requires, additional hoops to jump through. So we're getting really close to being able to hire a consultant and really start to dig in on the engineering of that project and really see what something like that might look like, what a solution could look like.
Okay. And our sidewalk program, we talked about this in episode 241, that we're holding on it and we will reevaluate once that wheel tax stuff moves through.
Yeah, we had set aside some ARP money. We ended up needing that for the downtown work around the Ben-Hur building and those things. So this is really tied to the wheel tax and surtax at this point. So the goal is if those 2 things are implemented, next year, we should have the revenue to really fund this and start to move forward and really start to make some progress on these sidewalks around our community. And what we're talking about is, again, increasing the share, the match that the city puts in with the property owner to really see these move forward and make it affordable for property owners to get these sidewalks repaired and replaced.
Okay. And our ADA transition plan.
Yes, we finally completed that document and adopted it at the city council meeting last month. So this one can kind of be removed from the updates, but this is a living document that will be on our city website eventually. And we'll continue to modify this as we make improvements or as other things are found. This just helps us make sure, kind of guides us through the process of making sure all of our buildings and programs and streets and sidewalks and curbs and everything are ADA compliant and don't create any barriers for anyone in our community.
Okay. And the Shelley Drain, what is our timeline for completion?
That one is basically wrapped up. There's just some small minor touch up, but all of the main construction work has happened. And so now we're just kind of in a cleanup phase.
Okay. And the Hamilton Street drainage work.
Yeah, so that's, that little street that runs from Darlington Avenue over to Market Street, right? And by Allen Monument, for example. And so we started work there, and then CSX was requiring additional permits and some additional approvals. Since then, CSX has brought their own crews in and done a bunch of work. So we're trying to figure out what really is remaining and what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. So
Yeah.
it's kind of on hold right now until we sort through all of that. That's classic railroad, right? Doesn't communicate for years, and then they just show up with a construction crew one day and start doing things. So we're trying to sort that out. We have engineering looking at that, but the goal is to improve that drainage along that street, that ditch between the railroad and those businesses right there. Has flooded at times over the years, and we don't want that to happen again.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. And Hawkview subdivision by Arbor Homes, they are moving at what seems like lightning speed in there.
Yes. Yeah, if you drive by there, if you get a chance, drive out there and look at it. There are houses popping up everywhere out there. So that's well underway.
Yeah.
And I don't have exact numbers in front of me, but it's in the double digits now of permits have been issued for homes there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It looks good. They've got their model homes up where people can go and information center, ask questions. And
which is just, I mean, to me, illustrating the need.
Yeah.
Obviously, the market, the demand was there, and we had constant, people, naysayers. That'll never happen, never sell. It's not there, and we're seeing just the opposite.
Yeah.
So that again fuels additional growth because other developers see that and say, well, okay, there's a strong demand here, and everybody who's moving there, unless they're moving from out of town, is freeing up another house on the market at a lower price point.
Right.
So.
And I think you may have people living there in August or September. I mean, I think some of those are really close to being done.
That's awesome. And on Purple Heart Parkway, there is single family housing proposed.
Yeah, so that's part of that, as the Arbor piece is happening, there's a lot of interest, and I've said several times on this podcast, everything between 150 and Purple Heart Parkway, all the way from 231 to Ladoga Road, has either been sold or under contract right now for various types of things, retail up towards the front, multifamily, and then single family as you get closer to Ladoga Road.
Yeah.
So we're pretty close to putting that all together. We've still got a couple of things to wrap up, and then we will have to, on the city side, complete some additional infrastructure work with water and sewer and those kind of things. But then those developers will be ready to move forward. I think you're going to see those things. I think you can see the deals get wrapped up this summer and fall, and I think you'll see construction in the spring.
Wow.
So that's a lot of new housing units on the south side.
Yeah. And, we've talked about the need for the market rate apartments as well.
Yeah.
And seeing that in our community, we've seen that some of the other housing, they're switching from that subsidized housing to market rate because there's the need for that.
Right. Yeah, the market is shifting for sure. And we're trying to figure that out. We're going to talk about that later this summer.
Mm-hmm.
We're assessing that right now. And, but yeah, we've seen that shift. I think who's really getting kind of pinched in that process are the seniors. And so we're trying to work through understanding really what that looks like. For a while, I feel like we had a pretty firm handle on those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we do right now. So we're trying to figure that out. But on the market rate side, we're definitely seeing the demand. So there are market rate apartments proposed in that area I just talked about along Purple Heart Parkway.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, with the south side, you have to have a plan
Yes.
for all of this. And so you're thinking through the fiscal plan for the infrastructure and how to make all of this happen.
Yeah, that's the big piece. So we talked about the single family, we talked about the multifamily. There is some infrastructure that has to be completed. We've done a lot of infrastructure, but there's still a little bit more to do. So you have to figure out how you finance that, how you make that work. And we're pretty close there. We need one more thing really, and then we'll start to move forward with that. The numbers all work. It all makes sense. Just keep in mind, while we were in the midst of doing all this, what happened? They changed the structure of the taxes. So all your numbers are off. You have to go back and redo those. But, with that kind of growth, it'll support the infrastructure cost to make it happen. So all that's in the works. I think we'll be close to putting that together pretty soon. So stay tuned.
Okay. And Mayor, I think this might be your favorite thing to say will be officially
I think we're going to take this off
going
the
off
list, after this month. The Ben-Hur building.
The Ben-Hur building.
Yeah, that's been on here from day one.
July 2025 marks the end of an era.
We probably should leave it on. I don't know, but yeah, no, it's we had, that grand opening and ribbon cutting was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think we figured out, I forget how many hundreds of people were
like
there.
600
or 700 people were there. It was a tremendous turnout. It was a fun day because people were beaming from ear to ear, know, and for so many people, that was their first chance to step foot back in that building for decades, right? And
Mhm.
so many memories. And I think everybody was pleased to see how it turned out. They'd really, retained the historic nature of the building
Yeah.
and everything. So it's done. They were going to start initiating leases on July 1st. So you'll start seeing some people living there and some activity there. I know they left the lights on around the clock for a
Mhm.
while, which at first kind of had people a little concerned, like what's going on. I think that was just to make a statement, like it's back, it's alive, but
Right.
it made for some amazing pictures.
Yes.
So yeah, I think they're back to normal now. They turn them off at night, but
Yeah. Very cool.
yeah, it's pretty exciting. So we're glad that project it's not done, and I think John Anderson made that point, and he said that at the ribbon cutting, like you're never done with these buildings.
Mhm.
It'll always be a work in progress, but it's done to the point it can be occupied.
Yeah. Exciting stuff. And retail recruitment activities.
Yeah, we continue to work through that. That's tied to a lot of that activity on Purple Heart. A lot of moving pieces there behind the scenes. I don't know what to say. You never know with these things, like when the announcements are going to come and not come. But safe to say, like we annexed all the property on the other side of 231, south of Purple Heart. Retail's coming, and retail is going to change in that area over the next couple of years, probably. So stay tuned for all that. Still a lot of activity behind the scenes. I know I say that every month, but there is. They'll make their announcements in their time,
Yeah.
So, and while we're doing all this here, we have the growth and everything. Then of course, keep in mind, you have all the stuff on the national level where, people are concerned about interest rates or economy, all those kind of things. So they're all factors in their timing.
Mhm. And our economic development activity, working through some of the expansion projects.
Yeah, that's where we're seeing the most activity right now. I mean, we're still looking at new leads and new businesses, but we got to make sure they're the right fit. We're seeing a lot of our activity now with expansions. Penguin Random House is almost done with their major expansion. We're working some other potentials, a couple in the pipeline that would be pretty cool with our existing employers. And so we really focus on them and how we can help them grow and increase their investment in this community and increase their employment numbers in this community. And it's paid off. We're really doing well there.
Yeah. And those expansions come from your business retention visits.
Yeah, a lot of times that's certainly where the relationship's built, but we're in the midst of those. We do those over the course of the summer. Well, we used to do them over the course of summer. Now we kind of start
Year
in the
round
early
almost.
spring. It's almost year round. We take basically December, January, maybe February out of it, but that's it. So we're doing those right now. We're just meeting with all those businesses and doing some of the corporate visits as well, keeping in mind none of those businesses are headquartered here. So you go visit their corporate headquarters, wherever that may be.
Okay. And we have Weaver Popcorn, Ira Whiskey, and then, like you mentioned, Penguin Random House, all under construction.
Yeah, go drive by Penguin Random House on 47 North. That's a massive, massive project. If you get a chance to drive through the Commerce Park, Ira Whiskey and Weaver are both, there's steel everywhere, and it looks pretty cool to drive through there right now. So definitely check those out.
And then the Fairfield Inn it's still happening.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about that. We announced that, and everyone's like, that must be off. It's not happening. No, it's happening. The property's sold. They're just moving through the design phase, and I'm sure, they're timing it based on their industry. There's probably a better time to start construction and open a new hotel. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure they're working through that process. But it is on track. Again, that'll be in the Commerce Park, north of Kids Count, between there and kind of the, Smith that runs by McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. And the Crawfordsville Career Academy is, the hub. There's lots going on.
It's moving forward.
There. Yes.
It's a work in progress.
And Kara will be joining.
Yeah. So Crawfordsville Adult Resource Academy is moving out there this summer as we speak. So it's again about creating that pipeline for the workforce. As Cheryl likes to say, cradle to career, and how do we move through that process and put it all under one roof and unified. So we're still working through that. The CTE programs are there, Career Tech Ed in the high schools. I think that's gone very well. The parking lot was full. It was awesome during the school year. So a little slower right now with school out, but there's still quite a bit of activity there. And then in the fall, it'll really ramp up. We've not come close to reaching our full potential there, and we know that. And so we're still exploring how we're going to adapt that and make it all work. But really excited about that. And I think our employers are starting to get excited about it because they realize the potential that we have to really start to shape that workforce pipeline.
Okay. And public transportation is moving from a 5310 to a 5311.
Yeah, we were funded by NDOT. I know we talked about that at length, but that just means that what has been the Sunshine Van program will transition into something else. We haven't decided on a name yet. There's a process there, but it'll be public transportation that anyone can use. Of course, there's a fee involved, but it will allow those people who have transportation issues to still get to the things that are important, whether it's work or the doctor or grocery store, whatever it is, still be able to get access to that system. So it's not a system of bus stops and buses driving around the community or anything like that. It's on demand.
Yeah.
And so the system will be built out slowly over time. But I think this is huge for our community. We talk a lot about how we're ahead of a lot of communities on different things. This is not one of them.
Right.
We have been woefully behind on this issue for a long time. So it's nice to kind of get in the game and really start to address the transportation needs of a lot of our citizens. So stay tuned for this as we transition this over. You'll hear more and more about how it's going to be set up and how people can access it and use it.
Yeah.
And this is driven by our employers. Number
Right.
one,
Right.
make no mistake. We heard this loud and clear from in those business visits
Mm-hmm.
that we needed to address this. So this is where this comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ready 2.0 aligned with the Greater Lafayette region.
Yeah, we think we're getting pretty close to hitting that 65% spend rule from Ready 1, which will allow the release of Ready 2 funds in our region. And what that means for us locally in Montgomery County, there's some funding in there to assist with the water main extension to past New Core Steel to what's called towers and structures. And then some funding in there to assist with that infrastructure on the south side of Crawfordsville and Purple Heart. And then some funding to assist with a housing program with the Thrive West Central and Montgomery County to really target smaller housing developments. So all that's built in there. Hopefully we'll see that start to break loose here pretty soon.
Yes. Okay.
Hopefully.
Yes. Stay tuned, right?
Stay tuned.
And our EPA Brownfields Grant 2.0.
Yes, that project is also moving forward a little slowly, but Kelly is working with the consultant now. We have a consultant selected, so she's working with them and both of our legal departments to finalize a contract. And then once that's finalized and approved, we should be able to move forward much more quickly and move forward on some of those environmental studies on these properties around the community that may or may not be brownfields, but look like they could have a potential environmental issue. So we can study those, see if there's anything to worry about. And if not, kind of try to actively get those back on the tax rolls. And if so, then we can start to address those issues so that we can also make those properties more productive again as well.
Okay. And our trash and recycling collection, what is the status of that?
It's trashy. It's a trashy mess.
Trashy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still kind of moving along there. I'm not sure what to say. I've made it very clear all along that this it was designed to be self-supporting and pay for itself, and it's not. And I've made that clear over and over. And so we're in a situation where you buy the $2 stickers, you put them on your trash bag. That pays to have the trash disposed of. That's about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about the capital costs, the trash trucks, things like that, it's not enough to cover that. So we just recently purchased a trash truck that was on order for 2 years. And we did an appropriation to pay for that. We paid that out of what we call Riverboat, which is our share of the state's gambling revenue. So we didn't use local taxes. We had to use that to make that work. Now, we're paying for it over time, but the first payment was paid out of there. Let's say that. So again, moving forward, I think considering the changes to property taxes and things like that, we're going to have to make some decisions there. I think the council, I don't want to speak for them, but my sense is that, they're on board with supporting trash collection with the capital expenses. I think that's pretty safe. Our goal, we really don't want to raise the sticker price. I think that is a disaster if we try to do that. I think where we're going to have to make the tough decisions is probably on the recycling side. So when we talk about trash, we talk about recycling also. Recycling actually costs us more per ton than the trash, which doesn't make any sense. And I'm not saying we're going to do away with recycling, so don't get alarmed here. But I think we will have to change probably like the drop-off sites. Most people don't realize, but the city of Crawfordsville pays for that drop-off site on Wabash Avenue near Walden's. and we pay by the ton for everything that gets dropped there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a staggering amount, right? And so that we're going to have to make changes to that. We have curbside recycling for city residents. I don't envision that changing. We'll probably continue that, but the drop-off sites and our ability to fund those probably will disappear, I'm guessing, with the property tax changes.
Yeah.
It's just not there, folks. So I know it's nice, and the reality is that's largely used by people who don't live in the city and don't pay for it. I mean,
Right.
just being blunt. So we're going to have to make some decisions. Long term, I'm not sure. There's a lot of talk. Should we privatize trash? Should we not? No easy answers there and no conclusions at this point. It's just an ongoing conversation with the city council.
Okay. And our vehicle branding, I think last month we were just waiting on one department. And
They're
now
all done. They
they're
look
all
awesome.
done.
Yeah, the uniform look with all of our city departments, it looks great.
Does look really nice. Looking when you're driving down the road and you see the city vehicle, our new
Yep.
logo on the side, it looks nice, with everything all consistent. It really brings together, people know it's a city vehicle.
City vehicle. It tells you what department it is.
What department,
All right there.
and it goes into our park signage, our building signage, everything. It's finally all coming together. It's been a long process to roll out the new
Mhm.
brand, but there's a lot of pieces that fall into that. And I
Yep.
think we're finally just about wrapped up with it.
Yeah, looks great.
And our city pool. Haven't talked about it in a while.
Continuing with great news.
Yes, yeah.
So the pool has had a lot of issues this year, and we kind of predicted that, right? The pool was built in 1966. And we did the study, the feasibility study. So we knew we probably have a few years at best left with the pool. And so this year's been really tough. So there's been a lot of closures, a lot of time the pool's down. We've had several mechanical issues. And then what happens is because there's so much turnover in the water, it leaks terribly. I'll give you a number here in a minute. It's going to blow your mind.
Mhm.
It leaks so much, then they have to try to get the chemicals balanced right, and we can't pass the test. And so we have to wait for so many days and retest and all that. So it's not been a good season with our park pool. We're losing our water bill this month. I'll just tell you this was 1.8 million gallons. 1.8 million gallons. And that comes out to over $8,500 for the water bill.
Wow.
How'd you like to get that water bill?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we did. So now, to be fair, some of that was the initial fill, but it's a big number, which has also meant we've burned through our chemical budget for the entire year because we have to add chemicals because the water changes, constantly.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a vicious cycle. Here's the reality, folks. We're gonna get through this year. It's a short season, so we're gonna get through it. As it stands right now, I'm not sure we'll be able to open that pool next year.
Mhm.
And I hate to say that, but that's just the reality. So we're going to be pushing out that feasibility study, talking about that. Those are big numbers, very big numbers. And in light of property tax changes and everything else, I'm not sure where we go with it, but we'll have a discussion as a community. What do we want as far as a pool,
Yeah.
and what are we willing to pay for? And how do we make that work or not work? So.
Right.
So stay tuned for all that.
Yes.
I thought we had another couple of 3 years left on this, but this year has been really bad. So
Yeah.
not sure we do.
Okay. Well, I think that is all on our list. Is there anything else that either of you would like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, as always, stay tuned for updates each week. If there's something that you're hearing and you want to reach out to us and hear it as a topic, let us know. And don't forget to check out Yodel, our Community Connections calendar and newsfeed, and one easy and convenient location where you can find out everything happening right here in our community. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you aren't already, follow us on Facebook at City of Crawfordsville Official, on Twitter at City of Seaville, and on Instagram at City of Crawfordsville. We hope you have a wonderful day and can't wait for you to join us next week.